I'd just like to say hello, my name is Alina. I chair the 13-member leadership team, and I'm really, really happy you're here giving your Giving Circle time tonight. Terry, why don't we start the slides? For the second year in a row, we do not have the luxury of meeting in person. However, being the positive Pollyannas that we are, we have seen the benefits of staying active and informed because we can connect with Zoom, making it easy for those members who are out of town, Florida, Colorado, maybe British Columbia will be coming in soon. Those of us who prefer not to drive at night or in these greasy, snowy conditions. Plus, there's the added bonus, you know your surroundings. So I will be one of 4 speakers this evening as we share our deck of slides with you. Judy Von Bucher, as Nancy said, is our education chair, and she's monitoring the chat feature. If it's appropriate for her to interrupt the speaker during that time, she will. But just so you know, we do have questions and answer portion at the end of the program that we can voice those. So we also expect this program to last just about 1 hour. Our agenda tonight, as it's in front of you, is that we will review the grants that were in place in 2020, share with you how our business model of granting will continue in this current year, 2022, and give you our State of the Circle recap, as well as bringing you along our strategy map. Next slide, please. Though 2021 continued to be a year of disruption, our circle was able to maintain our mission uninterrupted. COVID remained the dominant force in 2021, with the Delta and Omicron variants causing continued disruptions in the workforce and hospital systems well into this year. Locally, as the year went on, 2021 proved to be Rochester's deadliest year yet, affecting our youth and our city in ways that became even more heightened during these pandemic times. Rochester now has a new mayor, and our state is now under the leadership of our first female governor. Despite this continued year of disruptions, your leadership team continued to meet monthly to keep our grant processes and strategies moving forward. And we also paused to realize that we are grateful for the time we get to work and interact with each other in very meaningful ways. It warms us, and I hope it warms you too. Our Giving Circle and the leadership team recognize that hand in hand with our mission, we are on an intentional journey with many others to build a more equitable Rochester region. In so doing, in June, the leadership team engaged with Aqua Porter in her role as executive director for Rochester Monroe Anti-Poverty Initiative. In July, the leadership team met with Simeon Bannister of the Community Foundation to listen and learn how we can improve our racial equity lens, gain further knowledge on inclusive recovery, and be intentional about building relationships with women of color. Spurred on by your leadership team, the Community Foundation convened 2 Giving Circle sessions where they brought in the 5 Giving Circles for us to share our models, our successes, and future possible opportunities. And these meetings will continue well into 2022. We have all missed our in-person gatherings, and I sorely miss Dorothy pouring me a glass of Chardonnay.
And I miss doing it.
Thank you. But hey, we made the most of our 2 socials that we called Together While Apart. In those 2 sessions, we presented 2 grantees, Judicial Process Commission and Healthy Moms. We heard and listened from them for the first half of the program, and then the second half was dedicated to getting to know other members in small breakout groups. But that's not all what your Giving Circle continued to do in 2021. We are a circle that is a learning community. where we gain new insights into philanthropy as a vehicle for social change. So our education committee, thanks to Nancy Bond, Adrian Feldman, Kate Massey, and Judy von Bucher, brought to us 3 remarkable and timely speakers this year, continuing our drive to learn and keeping us connected. Speakers included teen empowerment, Doug Ackley, and participants who are making meaningful impacts on our city youth. We learned from Dr. Sean Nelms, of the superintendent of East High Educational Partnership Organization, that the East High, that is now in year 6 with the partnership of the U of R, has shown to have marked improvements in attendance, graduation, academic, and community rates. In September, the Education Committee brought to us Reverend Myra Brown from Spiritus Christi, she presented to us her speech on truth to power and her work on police and social justice in Rochester. Fun fact, because we use Zoom, those meetings are recorded. So go to our website, and in case you missed them and want to learn or rehear them, please do so. We also took a leap of faith this year, and it's not up there, my bad, to make our name known in the community by placing an underwriting spot for 5 weeks on WXXI radio. I hope you've heard it playing on both the AM and FM dials. And we did that to help get our name out and to drive agencies and potential new members to us. Keeping the circle moving forward meant that it was time to update our strategy map. So more on that later in the show. But before I turn it over to Linda to review how those 2020 dollars performed, I just want to review our continuum of grant cycles. This might look or seem confusing, but we will be reviewing 3 grant cycles this evening. Not at the same length, but we will be reviewing 3. For the past, Linda Joseph will be reviewing the grants that were awarded in 2020. For the present, you will find out more about the grants that we awarded in June of 2021. And for the future, you will hear how we will be approaching the future grant cycle, ready to commence in March of this year. Throughout these reports, I am proud to say that we continue to respond to the realities of the present and remain relevant to the future. I now pass the mic, and I will mute myself.
Melinda, just one question. Someone wanted to know if we got any new requests or inquiries from the spots.
As of the website, no, we have not.
From the radio spots, okay.
From the radio spot, we have not as of yet.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Melinda. The partner committee, in essence, is tasked with the responsibility of following our money, establishing relationships with the grantee organizations to understand their achievements, challenges, and the impact of our grants. These are the partners for the 2020 and 2021 cycles, and I'd like to thank each of them for the great job they have done developing meaningful relationships with our grantees and staying in close contact during the pandemic. I'm also pleased to point out that we have a number of first-time partners on the committee for the current cycle. Laura Kahn, Barbara Huffsmith, Diane Newhouse, Marjorie Perlman, and Claudia Weber. And now on to our 2020 grantees. These are the organizations that we funded in 2020. As we all know too well, COVID-19 impacts continued throughout the entire 2020-2021 grant cycle. Schools, businesses, and courts were closed, and prisons, jails, and parole officer functions were constrained. For many of our grantees, the pandemic resulted in less women and girls served than originally anticipated, but the important thing is that they were able to provide most of their services to those participants that were enrolled in their programs. In addition, several of our grantees experienced staffing issues with employees unable to work due to illness or childcare issues, or they left for another job. We thought last year was difficult, but this grant cycle was even more impacted, and yet once again our grantees rose to the incredible challenges, adapting their programs, keeping participants safe and engaged. What they were able to accomplish is nothing short of amazing. I'm now going to share the outcomes for the grants we awarded in June 2020 for the 2020-2021 grant cycle. And as a reminder, we assess the final results of grantee performance based on a scale. Minimal outcomes achieved, some outcomes achieved, most outcomes achieved, essential outcomes achieved, and outcomes fully achieved or exceeded. There's a lot of information on these slides, so I want to let you know that they will be posted on the website so that you can review them after the meeting at your own pace if need be. So on to our first grantee, Cameron Community Ministries. Respect and Responsibility for Girls program is an after-school program for girls aged 10 to 17 in the Lyle Otis neighborhood to continue to learn respect, responsibility, and self-sufficiency for future success. Jamila Smith is the partner for Cameron. They continued to be affected by COVID-19. It impacted the number of girls they were able to serve, 19 compared to their goal of 27, and it forced them to look within their company to utilize the skills, talents, and expertise to fulfill some of their plans. One example was the etiquette class, which was taught internally. 100% of the girls showed improvement in math, self-esteem, and confidence. The 4th through 6th graders participated in Math Mondays, learning about finances. They attended social emotional learning sessions facilitated by Nazareth interns. One of the team building activities they were able to do was to sell hot chocolate to neighborhood residents, raising $1,200 that went towards bus passes. And one notable achievement was that Cameron had the first graduate from their program enrolled at Nazareth College studying psychology. So most outcomes were achieved in 2020. Center for Employment Opportunities, CEO, Support Services for Formerly Incarcerated Working Women, provides workforce readiness, transitional employment, job placement, and employment retention services to women returning home from incarceration to Monroe County. Helen William is the partner in 2020 for CEO. When COVID-19 severely impacted their ability to reach their target population, since their referrals come mainly from the parole officers who were under tight restrictions and experienced high turnover, leading to understaffing. They were able to provide the services they offered to the women that they did enroll in the program, and that resulted in 11 women who were placed in 15 unsubsidized permanent full-time jobs. So they were able to achieve some of their outcomes. Consumer Credit Counseling Service, CCCS, the Cash Coach program serves low-income working women by providing them with financial education and coaching support to enable them to achieve self-defined goals. Gita Ramachandran is the partner for CCCS. And I'm glad to report that CCCS was able to improve their performance from last year. They increased recruitment efforts using new platforms for participants and coaches, and were able to initially enroll 36 participants, more than the 25 projected, but over time participation tapered off despite increased outreach efforts, and they graduated 15 participants, less than their target of 18. Still, they were able to serve a greater number when accounting for those who participated for part of the program. Outcomes were met for all of the graduates, improving financial literacy, credit scores, and savings to debt by an average of over $5,000. Each year, CCCS makes improvements in their program to increase effectiveness, and this year they took advantage of virtual participation to enroll coaches from other locations. They improved the frequency and quality of communications, created a detailed handbook for the program, and offered incentives for completion of the post-training survey. As I mentioned, Gita is partnering with CCCS again this year, and she has continued her close collaboration with them. She even joined Malik Evans and Felicia Bryant, representing ESL, in presenting at their May graduation event. So essential outcomes were achieved in 2020. Greentopia, Green Visions, Growing Healthy Futures, provides workforce experience developing vacant city lots into fields of flowers and harvesting them for sale, job certifications and career development training to unemployed, out of school, and disengaged youth ages 18 to 24 in the Josana neighborhood. Nancy McAfee was the partner in 2020, transitioning to Laura Kahn in 2021. So 2020 was the second year that we have funded this program. And last year, because their program ended in November, they weren't affected by COVID-19. But this year, they experienced severe impacts. Their first priority was to develop a COVID safety plan in collaboration with their advisory committee and in coordination with the governor's office. And they were allowed to start operations in phase 1 of the New York State rollout of services because the program is outdoors. The cohort size was scaled back from 20 to 10, with 8 graduating, 4 of them women, all from the neighborhood. The program was delayed from May to a late July start, which meant that they were not able to get flowers to fully bloom and then sell the cut flowers, and that impacted their ability to generate revenue. Instead, they dedicated time to rehabbing local community gardens that were in disrepair, and they focused on designing and building up the foundations of their future gardens to maximize space, establishing new seed beds, tilling new rows, spreading over 60 tons of compost, establishing walking paths, and incorporating educational signage. Several of their planned training programs were canceled by the organizations providing them due to COVID. They will follow up with this cohort to participate in the OSHA training in 2021. They were able to partner with Cornell Cooperative Extension, developing a 10-week course, Intro to Landscape Technicians Training, which incorporated classroom time, followed by a site visit that followed up on the training module. They also partnered with Bank of America and Rochester's Financial Empowerment Center to provide training on financial literacy, and they were visited by various corporate employers to discuss potential employment opportunities. 100% of the graduates did obtain employment. So most outcomes were achieved in 2020 for Greentopia. Next is Girl Scouts of Western New York. The out-of-school time with Girl Scouts program provides low-income kindergarten through 8th grade girls with Girl Scout leadership development programs with a particular focus on financial literacy and STEM. Nancy Bojack is the partner for Girl Scouts, both in 2020 and again this year. So 2020 was the second year that we funded this program, and I'm pleased to report that they exceeded their goals despite the ongoing challenges posed by the pandemic. They were able to serve 320 girls, almost a third more than the year before, and more than their goal of 250. For most of the grant cycle, the programming continued to be virtual, building on what they created in 2019, including 171 girls completing the popular Badge in a Box kits. One unexpected benefit of the virtual model was that instead of being site-specific, it included council-wide participation, enabling the city girls to interact with others they normally wouldn't get to meet. And during the summer, they were able to serve 73 girls in person. So outcomes were fully achieved or exceeded. Next is JPC. The Women's Legal Action Project and Support Services Program seeks to increase women's economic independence by providing legal services support to women with convictions who have stabilized their lives. Elaine Miller and Sue Ames are the partners for JPC. And we've funded them for 9 years now, and they have continued to do great work helping women overcome obstacles from the incarceration, as we learned in more detail by listening to the experiences of Maisha and Brandy at our April social. COVID-19 continued to impact their operations. Meetings were held by phone instead of in person. They provided cell phones to clients and equipment to the prison to enable virtual meetings with incarcerated clients. JPC staffing was also affected this year, which hampered their ability to prepare more certificates of relief. Despite the challenges they faced, they were able to serve more women than forecasted, with 101 women being employed. They also relocated their office to provide more space, easier accessibility to public transportation, and co-located with other service providers. So essential outcomes were achieved. Next is Spiritus Christi. The Women's Empowerment Program works with women discharged from Monroe County Jail, preparing them to be successful in the next steps toward permanent housing and self-sufficiency by providing educational, vocational wraparound support. Linda Salmon was the partner in 2020, and she's transitioned that to Claudia Weber this year. Despite the impacts of COVID-19, Spiritus Christi was able to meet most of their objectives, serving 45 women and enabling many to find stable housing, pursue their educational and vocational goals, maintain their sobriety and mental health, and reunite with their children. One of the creative ideas to meet the challenge of the pandemic environment was to purchase iPads so that the women had access to virtual healthcare appointments and were able to connect with peers and family. Essential outcomes were achieved for Spiritus Christi. Next is the Hagen Grant, the vocational training program funded by the $100,000 gift from Professor Hagen, which is a 3-year investment program with Spiritus Christi to hire a vocational case manager to assist women in gaining employment or furthering their education. This is a report on the accomplishments of year 2 of the grant. Nancy Rutherford and Martha Blair are the partners. The program has faced numerous challenges, some expected and others pandemic generated. Nonetheless, they succeeded in placing 8 women in jobs during 2021, with an additional 7 women actively pursuing their education. This is short of their original goal of 20 to 25 women placed in jobs each year. It has been difficult to find appropriate jobs in a safe setting for clients. Despite the current worker shortage, many employers, including healthcare and corporations like Lowe's, remain highly reluctant or refuse to hire anyone with a prior conviction. Restaurant job openings are available, but clients are not placed in those jobs because of the high prevalence of drug and alcohol use among restaurant workers and the associated ready availability of recreational drugs. A further major limiting factor is transportation. These women must rely on bus service, which means that jobs in outlying suburbs are for the most part unreachable. So the focus is on identifying small local employers. An additional pandemic-generated problem has recently surfaced that brought the program to a temporary standstill. This program is directed towards women who have graduated from Jennifer House and are now living independently in the network of Spiritus Christi apartments. The housing supply was expected to be ample as residents gradually moved out of Spiritus Christi housing and made space for new residents. But with the current moratorium on evictions, the Spiritus Christi housing is now completely full. And as a result, the 3 women in Jennifer House who are ready to graduate, live independently, and apply for jobs have to stay in Jennifer House. Consequently, efforts are underway on networking in order to locate justice-involved women outside of the Spiritus Christi network who might benefit from the vocational training services, as well as to identify potential new employers. With that in mind, the coordinator was given contact information for Sue Porter of JPC to see if there could be synergies there. The coordinator is also working to find ways to encourage the changes needed within the judiciary system and the local business community in order for previously incarcerated individuals to obtain employment. So funding for year 3 was approved. The next one is Teen Empowerment, Young Women's Leadership and Employment Project, prepares young women in the Southwest and East Side neighborhoods with career-oriented skills while positioning them to work with peers and adults to reconnect and strengthen their community. Joanne Guarneri is the partner for Teen Empowerment. COVID-19 impacted their ability to interview and recruit staff as projected, but they were able to hire 11 female youth organizers, 8 youth history ambassadors, and 2 associate coordinators who all developed leadership, problem solving, career, and conflict resolution skills. 81% improved academic performance, and the 2 YOs that were seniors graduated high school. They didn't meet their target related to goals, and they weren't able to continue work on their longitudinal study of former YOs, but they did participate in 25 virtual focus group dialogue sessions to discuss issues that youth face and potential solutions. And during the summer, they were able to hold 9 in-person events in COVID-safe ways. The YHAs created a documentary in collaboration with Clarissa Street Elders about the history of their neighborhood, and it has won 4 national awards. In addition, Bree Williams, one of the YHAs, became the youngest ever Western New York winner of the Princeton Prize in Race Relations, which recognizes and rewards high school students who have undertaken significant efforts to advance racial equity and understanding in their schools or communities. Beautiful Destiny Ford, one of the YOs, was the runner-up. So essential outcomes were achieved for teen empowerment. The next grantee is Unity. Their Project Independence is a job training and placement program that provides inner city moms with children under the age of 4 with support and skill building needed to gain employment. Diane Newhouse is the partner for Unity. This program was severely impacted by the pandemic as well, restricting in-person opportunities for training and job placement. They were able to serve 22 inner city moms, which was well short of their goal. However, 12 women were placed in jobs and 7 attended higher education. They were able to complete some training, but many of the women were reluctant to attend in person. So some outcomes were achieved for Unity. Volunteers of America Training Scholarships for Women program was to provide construction training to 6 women, and Ann Ward was the partner for VOA. The program start was delayed due to the COVID-19 restrictions, so we granted several extensions, hoping that the program would be able to start. But when April came around and they were still not able to start, we decided to make the decision not to fund the program. So the $9,000 grant amount was put towards the 2021 grant cycle pool of funds. So the program was unable to be executed. So looking at the overall performance for the 2020 grants, we see that most of our grant dollars this year were invested in 4 agencies that achieved essential outcomes. 2 agencies achieved most outcomes, 2 were able to achieve some outcomes, and 1 was able to fully achieve or exceed their outcomes. It is striking to see how much our grantees were able to accomplish despite the enormous challenges posed by COVID-19. And then looking at the performance of our grants from inception of the Circle in 2008 through the grant cycle year 2020, we have granted a total of $1.68 million, with almost 57% of our grantees fully achieving or exceeding their projected outcomes. And then it is always important to take a step back and look at the cumulative effects of our grants, your investments. For the 2020 grant cycle, we see that we touched over 700 lives and 150 women gained employment despite the impacts of COVID-19. We've helped reunite women with convictions with their children and families, reestablishing and strengthening family relationships. We've enabled girls and teen moms to develop higher self-esteem and confidence and to become aware of potential opportunities for them to build a life of meaning and self-sufficiency. Strengthening women and girls also strengthens communities. Not only are we helping the women and girls, but we are also providing children and families of the women served with stronger relationships, a more stable environment, more positive role models, and also engaging with and impacting community members. There is so much need in our community, and even though a number of our grantees weren't able to help as many women and girls as anticipated, they were still able to make an important difference for those they did help. Hearing firsthand the experiences of Maisha and Brandy, the JPC participants, and from Candace, the Unity participant, gave us a glimpse into the challenges women face and how our grantees are able to help them. A thank you note that was shared with us from a participant in CCCS also emphasizes how profound the impact can be. In response to an email sent out to participants to encourage them to keep up their work, here was the response. Thank you. I really needed to hear this today, as I have been withdrawing due to just what you stated. Overwhelming, focusing, very personal, stressful, and tough to deal with. This has made me look at the last 23 years of my life. What a wake-up call. Again, thank you. Sounds strange, but this is giving me the carrot to keep going. And now I'll turn this over to Carol to share information on the 2021 grant cycle.
Thank you, Linda. For those of you I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, I'm Carol Heidi, and Sue Moore and I are co-chairs of the Grant Making Committee. The 2021 Grant Making Committee followed much of the same process as the year before. However, going into this cycle, we had experience with virtual meetings, so it was a little bit more smooth for Sue and me. Our goal each year is to have a balanced mix of veteran committee members and members who have never served on grant making in the past. 30% of the group shown on this slide of the 2021 committee members were new to grant making. And because it was virtual, some members attended from places like Cape Cod, Florida, and Colorado. Sue and I are grateful to this dedicated group of 15 women who contributed their time, talent, and ideas to the selection of our 2021 grant recipients. We received 25 applications requesting over $639,000. To give you a little perspective of where these applications came from, 4 were serving girls and teens, 3 applications were programs for mothers, 2 were for refugees, 3 applications were for women with convictions, and the remaining were mostly for programs supporting low-income working women. 10 applications were from agencies that had not previously applied for a grant. The graph to the right of the chart of the page shows a number of grants by dollar amount requested. As you can see, over 50% of the requests were for over $25,000. And this is a continuation of the trend we've been seeing over the last few years of having larger grant requests. And as you may recall, in 2021, we continued to offer the high impact grant for $40,000. We actually had 6 applications submitted for the high impact grant, but none were selected by the committee, primarily because they didn't meet the criteria we set for a high impact grant. Ultimately, the committee awarded the 10 grants shown on this slide. You'll see several familiar agencies listed, but we also awarded a grant to one of our new applicants, Urban League, for their project Families in Transition. We awarded a total of $214,700, which is the largest amount we've ever given. At last year's business meeting, we reported that we had $200,000 available from member donations in 2020 to award in the 2021 grant cycle. But subsequent to that meeting, and with a Circle leadership approval, we applied the $9,000 that Linda referenced earlier from one of the awards that was not distributed. And we folded in some non-member donations to enable us to actually give that $214,700 in grants. As a precaution, we awarded the funds when we were certain the programs could begin. And as you can see from the chart, we provided a great deal of flexibility for programs to start. Although this flexibility may be helpful to our grantees, this is quite the challenge for Linda Josephs and the partner committees. but they do a wonderful job of making it work. And now Linda will share a little bit about how some of these 2021 grantees are doing thus far.
Thanks, Carol. Our agencies are on different timetables, as Carol mentioned, and we have continued to disperse funds when the grantees are ready to start their program. Unity follows a January to December cycle, so they just finalized their report for 2020, and we expect to provide them with their check by the end of this month. Cameron had a change in leadership this year, which resulted in a delay in getting their final report, so we have not yet provided them with funding for 2021. We expect to do that by the end of the month. The rest of the grantee programs are underway, and Greentopia completed their cycle, and I'm pleased to report that the flowers did bloom this year. CCCS has enrolled 25 participants so far, so they look to be on track with their objectives. And our new partner, Claudia Weber, is developing a relationship with Spiritus Christi and attended one of their weekly State of the Heart meetings to get an idea of some of the activities that they have. Our first-time grantee, the Urban League FIT program, is doing fairly well so far. They enrolled their first cohort of 10 students. Due to COVID constraints, training is being provided one-on-one in participants' homes. 100% of the women gained skills in money management and financial resources, and so far, 5 gained digital literacy skills. 2 women obtained employment, and 2 are enrolled in a Rochester Economic Opportunity Center education program. So we'll be getting more detailed updates as the first mid-cycle reports come in later this month. So now I'll turn it back to Carol to talk about 2022.
Thanks, Linda. Believe it or not, for several months now, Sue and I have been preparing for the upcoming 2020 grant cycle. We've incorporated changes to our applications and processes in response to feedback that we got from our committee members in a post-committee survey. And we also incorporated suggestions from applicants and the changing priorities of the community. Our 2022 grant cycle is now open, and this year we have a committee identified, of which about half have never served. And we're excited to have some of our newest members of the circle joining us this year. Of course, we're always looking for volunteers. So this is extremely important work for the circle. So if you're interested, please drop Sue or me an email or use the chat feature now on Zoom to indicate that you would like us to contact you. And we'll fill you in about the requirements for the committee membership. For 2022, we eliminated the 40,000 high impact grant. We offered this option for the prior 2 years at the recommendation of the grant making task force to see what kind of response we might get. We did see a few applications, but unfortunately, we never awarded this grant. Now, with the strategic grant making process well underway, we feel the larger high impact grants are better suited for strategic grant making instead of our responsive grant making process. We're continuing to offer the opportunity for agencies to define their grant start and end dates. By not shoehorning these programs into our arbitrary schedule, we hope to make less work for the agencies, specifically around reporting, and enable them to define programs that work with their operations and budgets. And as Melinda reported earlier, the leadership team has made a conscientious effort to learn more and enhance our understanding of racial equity. And as a result, we are capturing more information in our application, and that will enable us to consider aspects of racial equity in our grant decision making. And again, this year, we reached out to various BIPOC or Black, Indigenous, and people of color organizations, letting them know that our grant cycle is now open. Although these are small steps, it's a deliberate effort on our part to consider the impact that we may have on racial equity in our region through our philanthropy. And now I turn this presentation over to Diane Newhouse, who will share the state of the circle.
Thank you, Carol. In 2021, we gained 5 new members. To date, we have received donations towards our 2022 grants from 146 members out of the 170 that are on our roster. We have currently collected $175,000 from our members towards the 2022 grants, because some of our generous members have given more than the $1,050. We hope to receive at least 5 more donations before we close the books in 2021 to give us a total of $180,000 towards grants. Each year, most of our donations come in November and December, which is fine. Since the Rochester Foundation bases their fees to us on our money that they are holding for us, paying in December means that we pay the foundation a lower fee earlier in the year. However, because there is a 1 to 2 week lag in processing the donations, we don't know how much money we will have until mid to late January. So please send in your membership donations in November or early December. And if you're having a third party send in your donation, please do so in October or November, since there is usually a much longer delay in processing. The Charitable Investment Fund shows the results of our payments of $33,333 in each of the 3 years to Spiritus Christi Prison Outreach Vocational Education Program. And this last year, we received a gift of $10,000 from a non-member simply by one of our members just sharing our mission. Next slide. So, from a small group of women in 2008, thanks to your generosity, we have to date invested over $2 million into our community to help women and girls. Woo-hoo! As Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. On this slide, you will see the $50 you give each year above the $1,000 goes to our operating fund. It covers the cost of our meetings and our other cost of business. In 2021, we collected $7,430. When you look at our expenses, you see that we did not spend any money on in-person meetings again this year. However, in order to keep communications open, we did pay for Zoom, invoice letters, and thank you postcards. We also decided this year to underwrite WXXI, as Melinda had mentioned, which was suggested to us by the foundation. The foundation said they would contribute $1,000 if we contributed $2,000 to get our name recognition increased to attract new members and agencies. We do pay annual fees to Philanos, which is a national network of giving circles, and of course, monthly fees to the Rochester Area Community Foundation for their support. As you see, our income exceeded our cost again this year, and with adding carryover from previous years, we have a current surplus in our operating fund of $15,553. Given that we will not have in-person meetings for at least the next few months, the leadership team has decided to move $10,000 from this fund to our grant fund, enabling us to provide $190,000 for grants in 2022. And now here is Melinda again.
Woo! 2 million into the community is amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Treasurer Diane Newhouse, for that informative meeting or informative information with regards to our books. This is the page turner for the last portion of our program that I'll take you through our 3-year strategy, taking you along our 3-year strategy map and share with you our current governance. Slide, please. Back in September 2018, Nancy Bloom and I presented to you the work of the strategic team that we put in place. We had a recipe to follow, 6 strategies that needed to be tackled as we continue to be a meaningful and impactful grant maker in our community. Let me review those key strategies shown on the right are key to success that were identified. Redefining roles and responsibility first needed to be clarified by the future state of our organization, which we did by writing committee chairs and updating our articles of operation. As that was completed, we targeted our talented membership to join us in a more active role in sharing their abilities to grow our circle. In these 3 years, we assembled 2 new working committees, a strategic grant making committee and an education committee, bringing 12 additional members in for committee work. The circle also needed a heavy lift with communications. We now have co-chairs Heather Jones and Abby Schoenfeld, who shepherd our external and internal communications. We've enhanced the voice of the community in the community by strengthening our partner role with the agencies. The Strategic Grant Making Committee has been and continues to meet with agencies, foundations, and non-for-profits to investigate our next possible strategic grant. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, your leadership team is active in making sure that our members are having opportunities to hear directly from our customers, the women and girls in Rochester that our agency support with our grant dollars. Our circle has matured over the past 14 years. Records were contained and shared on various personal PCs and Macs and manila folders and big envelopes, and that all needed to be organized and maintained for record management. So our last strategy of preserving our institutional knowledge and the ability to access and share that knowledge was taken care of by utilizing and paying for Dropbox, which is an internet platform that is now our virtual office. Keeping that organized, they don't have to clean the coffee maker, but keeping it organized and concise are co-chairs Kathy Albertini and Jill Miller. Our future strategy map. In those 3 years between 2019 and 2021, our circle internally and externally accomplished quite a lot. So let's move that strategy even more forward. When the leadership team reviewed the mission and values, we added 2 minor but emphasizing changes by adding fiduciary trust and emphasizing, and 100% volunteer to exemplify our stewardship of money and the amazing caveat of keeping our expense dollars to a bare minimum and operating as an all volunteer organization. We also needed to update our vision because on the prior slide, that vision read that by 2021, we would be a strategic grant maker and collaborator based on a deeper understanding of the needs and resources available to women and girls in our community. Going forward, it is now updated in green and reads, we are responsive to the needs and resources available to women and girls in Monroe County, working with our community partners and Rochester Women Giving Circle members to promote racial equity and reduce poverty. Our strategies for keeping our circle healthy and moving will be to become more intentional in diversifying our membership as well as strengthening our information sharing to further our goals. Next slide, please. There are more leadership opportunities. Here is our structure. I've mentioned a lot of names tonight, but you'll see that we still have openings for you to come in and be involved with the leadership team and do some committee work. So if you have an opportunity and you have a thought that you would like to have an opportunity, have a conversation with me or with somebody else on the leadership team, please send us a little note or let us know in chat and we'll get in touch with you offline. Next slide. I present to you the 2022 leadership team. My hair has changed. I grow it. I call it Sybil hair. Sometimes it's short, sometimes it's long, sometimes it's curly. But this is an amazing team. And as I said earlier, we are so thankful that we get to work together and have fostered new friendships. And it's just really nice. So with that, I'll turn it over to the next slide, which is to remind you of our website, therwgc.org. Join us. There's a members only. And I now leave it open for comments and questions. And to remind you that on February 8th, we will have an education session and be bringing you Spiritus Christi. Judy, how are we doing in chat?
Just a kudos comment to Linda. Thank you, Linda, for a thorough and engaging report. Very good presentation. Thank you for keeping to the time limit.
I know that's appreciated on Zoom.
Yeah. Earlier, someone had mentioned we also hope that the TV spots on WXXI will attract new agencies to apply during the grant cycle, not just new members.
Agreed. Wonderful. Is Shirley on here? Or Alice?
Yes, Shirley had joined.
Great. I just wanted to say, did you ever think in 14 years, $2 million would be accumulated? This is amazing. I just want to thank you for the power of 5 women in your living room in 2008. Right, Ann Johnson?
That was the plan.
Well done. Well done. Wow. No
Thank
comments?
you for the wonderful presentation. Thank you also for not just reading from the slides. The additional information was essential and inspiring. Thanks to all presenters. Question, is it important when we send in our checks in 2022? That's for members, I assume.
You're muted.
Yes,
Diane.
yes, it is important. You can send it in anytime during the year, but please get it in by at least the early part of December, especially if it's coming in from a trust or from some other third party. Oftentimes we have to work hard to get that in and understand who it came from. It takes more processing. So please do get your money in by middle of December at the very latest.
Okay, a question. I've tried to get a password, but keep getting a message that the website is being updated. When will we be able to do this?
This is Terry. I just responded to Sarah. I'm not sure why, Abby, I don't know why we have that message because I don't get it, but I have to have someone set you up, Sarah. And I said in the chat, I'll let you know right when it's done and you'll be all set to go.
Okay, and what coordination, if any, is there with other Giving Circle groups to ensure there's no duplication in grants?
Great question, and I'll jump in. There's a lot of silos in our community, right? And we always try to look at trying to compress them and doing things together. So one of the reasons why your leadership team asked the Community Foundation to meet with the other giving circles, the other 4 giving circles, is to see if we can coordinate or find something, or are there any symmetries that we can find. As of this point, we're still investigating. Now there's not a giving circle, but there's a group called 100 Women Who Care that is in Rochester. They have a different business model. And they do, maybe we could find something similar that we could coordinate with. But we're keeping those blinders open, if that helps. Does that answer the question? Okay.
And then a
Melinda,
question,
we also met with the other giving circles that are supported by the Rochester Area Community Foundation to understand what each of us was doing and to make sure that there wasn't anything where we were duplicating.
Okay, that's why I was asking the question, in the event that grantees might just simply be requesting grants for the same purpose to a number of agencies. That could have an impact on your measurement of outcomes and your sense of how well they're accomplishing them. That's why I was asking.
But you have to remember too, though, that some of these agencies, we are not the only funders of their program. So, you know, in some cases, even for the same program, they're looking for multiple sources of funding. So just bear in mind that most of the programs that we actually have, we're not the 100% funder.
okay, a question, are our membership numbers actually dropping? And Melinda, I think this would beg a question, do we need members to talk about the Giving Circle?
Yes, and yeah.
Spread the word.
Spread the word, share with it. Now there's you know, we sent out our invoice or your records in the 4th quarter, and then that's when we saw a lot of our members writing their checks and we could tally them up. And as Diane said, we have about 146 who have paid of the roster of 170. So we're still looking for those stragglers, and those stragglers are it's really if it's a third party cutting a check, getting into the Community Foundation and getting it logged in, there's just a lag time. So I think we'll still kind of hover around, and you know, remember, we're operating as an all volunteer organization. So maybe keeping this number at this point in the 160 to 170 range is really operationally okay for us. But we will keep you posted with updates on how our membership turns out. Diane, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I would just say, as we have been reaching out to some of the people who we haven't heard from yet, most people have said, oh, I forgot, it got away from me, whatever, we'll get it in. But even now, if you sent your check tonight, it will be the beginning of February before we will know. So we will reach out one more time to people. We did have the invoice letter, and then Melinda sent an email to all the people that we hadn't heard from, and now we'll be calling. So it is a lot of work at the end of the year if you don't get your donations in on time.
And a comment from Lee Fox, the Judicial Process Commission has done an incredible job of continuing their outreach and work with their clients despite COVID. Thank you, Lee.
Yay. Love that. Great effort. Great effort. It is, again, it is so nice to see you all in your own surroundings, even though we're 2-dimensional and it's a big Brady Bunch screen we have. It is so good to see familiar faces and names. And soon, I hope soon, I'll be able to like reach out and shake your hand, give you a big wink, and have my glass filled up by Dorothy.
Will do.
Good. Anything else?
Melinda, may I speak? At one point last year, as I was leaving a meeting, we were talking about how to get more programs and more participants in our program. And I suggested that maybe we might want to find out from the membership what, I haven't had a call for 3 hours, just right now. Just hang on a second. I don't want to lose. Can I call you back? Okay. Many of us sit on boards of organizations in our community. And maybe it's time that we just put out a little membership blurb that we would fill out, you know, what agencies or what programs do you work with? Where do you volunteer? Do they work with teens? Do they work with? And I think it would be so helpful.
Boy, were you a mouse in our little strategic committee meetings? Because that's exactly what we want to do. We don't know how to, we want to figure that the best way to approach our membership, because we've got 150, 170 women who are connected. And wouldn't it be great just to kind of consolidate that information and share it? That is one of our activities for our strategy. So you're on it. And I'll look for you to coordinate that for us. Thanks, Dorothy.
No, I'm not
Okay.
offering to coordinate.
Oh,
but
no, I think
I'm
I heard
willing
that.
to-
Didn't everybody hear that?
I'm willing to help because, you know,
Okay.
I mean, a simple little thing, just sending us each an email. If you sent
Mm-hmm.
a mass email and you can get that done very quickly and just say, in the next week, could you just fill this out and put, if you sit on boards,
Yeah.
what church are you active in? You know, what schools are you connected with or what areas are you connected with? And I think we can broaden our scope very easily.
Well,
Right, Melinda, one more question. Do you have the nice brochure I saw years ago to hand out to potential members? I find it difficult to ask my friends to join a group or give money. A brochure is an easy way for me to introduce the organization.
we
That's
do.
from Barbara Huffsmith.
Thank you, Barbara. Great question. And our communication co-chairs, Heather and Abby, have put together our most recent trifold, which talks about our history, our mission, and the current grantees. So Barbara, or excuse me, Abby and Heather, if you could follow up with Barbara, we can get some of these mailed to her. It'd be great. Love you, ladies. I don't know what more to say. This has been great. Terry, you are our Zoom czar, and I so appreciate it. Judy, you did a great job. Diane, treasurer. Carol, co-chair of grant making. Linda Josephs, once again, does a phenomenal job reporting out with detail and meaningful content. Thank you, Linda. Woo! All right. We did it. Hope to see you live and in person soon. If not, see you February 8th for our education session. Happy
5:30 again?
2022. February 8th, 2022,
Time?
5:30.
You'll get another invite. I'll give you a day off and then you'll see it in your email. Okay.
Awesome.
Super.
All right.
So good to see everybody. Hi, Martha. Cindy's there. Sue
Hi,
Eisinger.
thank you.
Miss you guys.
Thank you.
Paula and Helen sitting together. Nice. Hi, ladies. Good. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a great evening
To all, a good night.
to all.